Okay, so as I was saying, I gave this talk at my dive group, but someone didn't record the audio, so I'm giving it again to my family. The someone who didn't record the audio is me, so I guess the moral of the story is that the person giving the presentation shouldn't also be the AV person. Normally talks are about a particular place or something like that, but I wanted to do something different. I've been diving now for about 20 years, and I wanted to give kind of a retrospective of things that I've seen, lessons that I've learned, stuff like that. Like I said, I've been diving now for more than 20 years. I've been photographing underwater for almost all that time. But I wanted to say a little bit about how I got there first. So these are the first cameras that I owned. The two on the left are film cameras, and those were a graduation present from my parents for college graduation. And they served me well for a while, but they had a lot of problems, and the worst part about them is that they weren't autofocus. So on the right are the Canon cameras I switched to in 2002. Both of them film cameras, both of them autofocus, and I switched for a safari that I was going on. But the film cameras, all of them, especially, and even the Olympuses for sure, served me very well. I did go to graduate school in the Colorado area, and did a lot of side trips both to Colorado and to Utah, which is where this photo is taken.
That was in Utah?
The one before I think was in Washington. This is in Colorado. This is Snowmass Peak. This is a difficult shot to get because you have to hike over several 12,000 foot passes to get there. And it's a very nice lake, but very cold. So while I was in graduate school, I went on a vacation to the Bahamas and did a Discover scuba dive. This was in 1995. I'd always grown up sort of I knew that I wanted to dive, but I was in grad school and had no money, and it was very difficult. But that was a camera that was very junky, even in 1995. However, this was my very first underwater photograph taken with that camera. It sucked back then. It sucks even more today, but I was hooked as a scuba diver.
Hooked as a diver or hooked as an underwater photographer?
I think hooked as a diver. The underwater photography came later.
That photo's not so bad.
It's got some coral. It's got a few fish. I've taken worse. So like I said, I was hooked on diving, but I was a poor graduate student, so it did take a while before I was able to actually learn how to dive.
How deep are you there, do you think?
Oh, it's a Discover scuba dive, so 20 or 30 feet tops. That's sort of all you're allowed to go. But I did finally learn to dive in 2004. What happened is I decided to take a trip to Tonga, which is in the South Pacific. It wasn't really a diving trip. Mostly I was going to do some other activities, but I figured I might as well learn to dive for real before going on this trip. This was one of my favorite plane flights ever. This is a DC-3. Actually, probably really did serve in World War II. But then when the war was over, a lot of these got turned into passenger planes. It's unpressurized, flies at 8,000 feet. You load in through the back, walk up this incline to get to your seat. It was a lot of fun.
Not a chance.
So like I said, this wasn't really a dive trip. It was actually mostly a kayaking trip. So we were kayaking amongst all these little islands of the Tongan archipelago. Many of them, had nothing on them. We did some sailing, whale watching, cultural experiences, like this banquet, like this performance of native dance. Now, I did have an underwater camera on the trip. It was this one. It's really not a diving camera, but it is a snorkeling camera, and I did do some snorkeling. Topside, I had a Canon DSLR at this point. But here's a few of the underwater photos that I took with this. I did, like I said, it wasn't a dive trip, but I did do, I had booked 3 days of diving, and I liked it enough that I added a fourth. One of the things I really like about diving in the Pacific are the anemone fish, and especially the giant clams like this one here. But then after this trip, it would be almost 10 years before I got back to the Pacific. I continued my diving adventures and learning in Belize. This is Key Calker, which is just a little bit off of Ambergris Key. It's an island where there's no cars, just bicycles and golf carts. This is me, much, much younger. Again, no diving camera, but I did have my snorkeling camera, so I got a few photographs there. And then in 2007, about a year after the tsunami that hit the Thailand area very, very bad and killed hundreds of thousands of people, I went to Koh Phi Phi, and this is a memorial wall to the people on that island that were killed by the tsunami. The tsunami basically washed over the entire island and swept away a lot of people. One of the attractions there is the world famous Koh Phi Phi beach. That's the beach in the large picture. In the inset, that's not me. That's Leonardo DiCaprio, who starred in that movie. But now, they had the beach closed for a while, and I think now it's been reopened, but it's very strictly limited how much time you can spend there and so forth. But this was a really interesting trip, and this is where I did my advanced scuba. And then I was also told at that time that I was ready to get an underwater camera and become an underwater photographer. I thought I needed to be a better diver, and my instructor was telling me, well, you'll become a better diver by getting a camera, and so I took his advice.
Did he recommend a camera to get, or just?
Oh no. So this was my first real underwater camera. This is a Canon point and shoot. The nice little Canon housing that came with it, or that you could buy for it, and so I did a lot of diving with this, learning how to dive in the Florida Keys and a couple of Blackbeard strips in the Bahamas. It continued to improve as a photographer. These photos are all taken with that camera. Now, that camera did not have a very long life. I lost that camera on a ascent line, and in fact, it really was a shitty dive, as is remarked there. But losing the camera wasn't the only problem on that dive. If you read the rest, you can see that I had problems with current, problems with an octopus, and everything else. So that camera lasted me about 40 dives, and off it went.
So how much did it cost to replace your camera? Like what?
Oh, I don't know. They were about $500-$600 or so. So after that, I had a series of basically the same camera, just with the yearly upgrades, the Canon G10, G12, and G15. It turns out that Canon was making these great rebate deals that basically made it free to keep upgrading as long as you kept selling the previous camera. So I went through a series of these for a number of years, and really, these are very, very capable cameras. They were. You can't get them anymore. But I really enjoyed them, improved as a photographer, added my first external strobes to these, and so forth. This is a night dive in Bonaire. This is the Red Sea with its nearly infinite visibility. This is also the Red Sea with some underwater, not quite caves, they're open at the top, but very striking topography. This is a Red Sea liveaboard ship. They've been sinking for a long time. It's not just a recent phenomenon, although there's been a few that have sunk in the last few years and made headlines. The speculation is that this one was probably scuttled for insurance purposes, but I'm not sure. The other thing that I always found interesting about this is that there's down here at the bottom, there's a toilet seat. And it always amazes me that we as divers get so enthralled by seeing trash at the bottom of an ocean. If you saw this in your backyard, you'd say, "Who threw a toilet in my backyard?" But down at the bottom of the ocean, seeing a toilet is a wondrous thing. More Red Sea. This little crab. So, as a diver, I've been fortunate enough to get to some of the hot spots, and we'll come to that later. But I've also dived some of the less dive places that not many people have been. Tonga was one of them for sure. But I've been to a couple of others, and I wanted to share some of the things there and show that you don't necessarily have to go where everybody else is going to have a good time. This is Malta. Malta's interesting. It's an island in the Mediterranean, south of Sicily. It's fairly cool, but if you want to combine diving with world-class European architecture, like the cathedral shown here, and it's the place to do it. They don't have so much in the way of reefs for diving. But they do have a lot of shipwrecks, some of them intentionally sunk for divers, some that were not. And when we were there, really, really good visibility, so you could get very wide angle shots like that.
What were the water temps like?
I want to say that they were in the mid to high 70s. I jumped in the first day with my shorty and I was cold. This is interesting. This was the the bay right by the shop, and what you see here is that across the top is a piece of seagrass, but coming in from the left to the top is a pipefish, and you can see his little eye here. So he's very, very well camouflaged. So this was this dive was even kind of an afterthought. We were at the dive shop and they're like, "Oh, you can go diving here if you want. Do you want to try that?" And we said, "Absolutely." And saw a number of great things, including that octopus. Another place a little bit off the beaten track is Indonesia's Gili Islands. This is a couple-hour ferry ride from the island of Bali, which has just wonderful diving itself. But the island itself is it's kind of a backpacker destination, so it's a lot of younger people, a lot of people learning how to dive. A number of them doing sort of the Zero to Hero program, learning how to going from open water diver to dive master. But there's still a lot of the same life that you find everywhere else. The diving isn't as great as it is in Bali or other parts of Indonesia, but it's perfectly passable, and it's actually very reasonably priced. I think it's one of 2 places I've seen the Pikachu nudibranch. So at the beginning of this trip, I spent some time on Bali with a professional underwater photographer, taking a couple-day course from him. And he convinced me that I should upgrade from my Canon cameras that I had been using. So on this trip, I decided to do that, and then I ran into a couple who was backpacking effectively, and the guy was getting his dive master, and they were interested in buying my Canon camera off me. So I sold them my camera and my housing and left it in Indonesia, and used the money to pay my hotel bill, and went back. And I think I probably ordered my next camera from my cabana there on the Gili Islands. And I'll talk about what that is in a little bit.
So you said earlier that your instructor said you become a better diver if you become an underwater photographer. Do you believe that's true?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because to get the shots that you want, you have to be able to position yourself very precisely in the water, especially if you're doing macro photography. So a lot of times you're getting yourself in one place and then maybe moving yourself an inch or 2 to the right or an inch or 2 backwards to get a shot. And that's a skill you don't normally develop. So these are photos from Grenada. This is a trip I took with Abhishek, and again, not one of the places that people normally go, but lots of great Caribbean life there. Nice place to be. Nice climate. It's fairly far south in the Caribbean. There's even frogfish there occasionally. I've seen 2 in the Caribbean. 1 was there. Okay, so shifting gears. I think a lot of people in the group know that I spent some amount of time diving in Lake Michigan. So I spent about 10 years diving in Lake Michigan here mostly with Chicago Scuba Meetup and organizing a number of charters for the group and so forth. So this is the material service barge. This is a great entry-level dive near the Indiana-Illinois border. This is the Wisconsin, and that's an old Model A car that's in there. This is the Northerner, which is the favorite dive of a number of us. A burbot. Cod, effectively. This is also the Wisconsin. as is this, I believe. This is the Willie, the diver closest to me. That's Dean. And this is also the Willie. But it's sort of during this time that I discovered what I really like to do in as an underwater photographer, and that's to photograph critters. So this was my next upgrade. This was a Olympus PL5 mirrorless camera, interchangeable lens. The housing was also made by Olympus. It's shown there on the right. This gave me the ability to switch lenses depending on the dive condition and so forth. A little bit better image quality, and just a more adjustable camera. So I got this in 2015, I think I would say. That's probably the first time I dived that setup.
Was it a hard decision to go from Sony to Olympus? I mean, now you're buying two sets of lenses,
Canon to Olympus? It wasn't at the time. So like I may have mentioned, I had Canon and still have Canon as my main camera for normal photography, and now I have Olympus as an underwater system. At the time, it was easy because these cameras were very small, and the Canon cameras were quite large. Now they've kind of become more in parity, and then Olympus is Olympus has exited the business. They've sold it off to a company that is in theory producing new gear, but not much that's innovative. So I think for my next camera, I really have a decision to make. The thing is that underwater camera and housing is a big investment. And this is actually my current setup. So this is a little bit higher end Olympus, and now I have a very nice Nauticam housing. But as I was saying, then the problem becomes that now the camera is a small piece of the puzzle in terms of the cost of the system. So people tend to keep these for quite a while, and I'll probably keep mine at least for another couple of years, and then look to see if I can make the jump entirely to Canon. So this is the next sets of pictures are So this is from a trip that I organized to North Carolina. So is these barracuda. Sharks in the Bahamas. So what happens is this is in West Palm Beach area, and
this
every year
dive site
sort
is
of
the
at
Anna Cecilia, where
around,
our group was fortunate enough to see some
Labor Day,
60 groupers leading
frame,
the way at the bow of the ship.
They come in to spawn.
The Anna Cecilia was sunk in 2016 about a mile offshore. Her main deck is in 62 feet of water with the bottom at 85 feet. Normally, the MG-111 dive site is not particularly interesting, consisting of a barge which attracts a fair amount of fish life. However, this is a favorite spot for groupers who congregate at nearby pillars. These pillars are sunken wreckage from the old Jupiter, Florida High School.
Yeah, as long as you don't get super close to them, but you can see that Well, I think I may even have a picture of how close a diver gets to one of these, can get to one of these things. But I mean, I'm like less than 10 feet away.
Up to 200 Goliath groupers have been observed at the MG-111, and the scattered pillars allow for very close observation. Goliath groupers are aptly named, reaching lengths of 8 feet and weighing up to 800 pounds, or 2.5 meters and 350 kilograms. Getting to southern Florida to see these gentle giants in the late summer is very easy and highly
Okay, so this is the part where we have to point out to Stacy that these sharks are not very big, and they're very friendly, and they really don't mind having a big old hook in their mouth either.
Sure.
So.
As if I can't see it myself.
Is there any way when you take these pictures that you can tell how big or how small you're looking at, any kind of relationship to something they could tell the size?
I do have some pictures of some really, really small stuff where what you see is like a zip tie or a wire that the person is using to point something out, and you can tell that the subject is the size of a grain of rice or so.
Yeah, clownfish, right?
Yeah, clownfish. So yeah, this is kind of the photography that I've fallen in love with is doing macro type stuff. Okay, so here you can see that's the end of a Coke bottle, right? These are in the Philippines for the most part, although this fish and this one here are Rhinopius that were on the same dive in Bali. That's another Rhinopius that was in the Philippines. These fish are all like an inch tops. Mating mandarin fish. This is Indonesia, also Indonesia. Soft coral from Indonesia. This is a detail shot of a starfish.
Oh.
A big starfish, but that's the underside of an anemone. That's called the crinoid. It's also kind of related to starfish. A cuttlefish, that's a relative of the octopus. Coconut octopus using a couple of shells to hide. This is the poisonous blue ring octopus. So, and that's the wonderpuss from Limbe Strait. I love shrimp too, so not necessarily. Well, I love shrimp to eat as well, but I love to photograph them too. They're very, very cute and photogenic. 2 Coleman shrimp on a fire urchin. A little crab. Another little crab. I think this whole section is crabs. Mantis shrimp. flamingo tongue, and the one before that was a relative of the flamingo tongue in the Caribbean. And then these are all Pacific nudibranchs. So these are all, they're basically like a sea slug without a shell. And they're at most usually like a couple inches. And a lot of them are smaller than that.
How far down were you diving in most of these?
Most of this, I would say, is done at about 60 feet ish. I mean, you go down to wherever you need to go, but the 60 feet is a nice place to be, really.
Do you have to provide artificial light at that depth?
Yeah, so everything there is done with strobe lights. So in 2021, I was fortunate enough to be able to marry my dive buddy. Actually, Stacy decided that she wanted to learn how to dive when we were engaged. So this is her on her probably on her final checkout dive on the right. That's in Belize. So she learned how to dive in Ambergris Key. And since then, we've been several different places to dive, including some nice cenotes in Mexico and the Cayman Islands. So this is a little filefish poking out behind. This is also the Cayman Islands. Me having some fun with some parrots.
How deep are you qualified to dive?
130 feet. But by far the best place that we've been to dive is the island of Bali. So this is an interesting photograph. It looks like we're standing over a pool of water, but actually what they've done is just taken a mirror and stuck it underneath your camera lens. And these guys for $1 or $2 will take your picture. At this gate, we waited, I think, 45 minutes at least to be able to take our photo there. And you get out, and then there's one person that's saying, next pose, next pose, next pose. And there's this other guy that's taking your photograph for you, and then you're done. But it was really a spectacular temple. And there's a lot to do on the island of Bali that doesn't involve diving. So I highly recommend it for anybody that you should go. There's wonderful temples. This is a water temple. This is an imperial palace that was there. But the diving is really good too. So nudibranchs, snapping shrimp with a goby. This is a squat lobster. A pair of harlequin shrimp. An eel buried himself in the sand. Oh yeah, this was actually the dive in Bali with multiple rhinopius on the same dive. So we went with the dive master for one, and then we went further down, further deeper, probably down to 100 feet or so. And there was another one, which you will see in just a second. This guy. So, missed it. That's a skeleton shrimp. He's about, it's not much bigger than an ant. Kind of like an ant. Another kind of shrimp with eggs. And just off the island of Bali is is an area where you're basically guaranteed to see manta rays all year round. So Stacy and I went there, and so the idea is that we were told we weren't going to see mola molas because it was the wrong time of year to go there. But one did swim up on us. And this is the biggest bony fish in the world. So sharks are bigger, but this is of the fish, this is the biggest one.
How big is that?
Probably they can weigh. They can weigh over 1,000 pounds. So they're big. I mean, he probably from bottom of the fin to the top of the fin, he was probably 8 feet. Would be my guess.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the third dive we did on the.
Where you just go down and the current just takes you. You don't have to really do anything.
Okay, so and then this is a parting shot of Bali. So one of the things I want to emphasize to people is that while you're out diving places, also take some time to see what the world has to offer. Bali is of course a prime example of that, and these shots are all there. So this is the monkey temple in Bali and a offshore temple as well. This is the same place I showed you before. That's actually Mount Agung in the background, and I'll have something to say about that in a little bit. See the people. These are people that are actually out working in the rice fields surrounding Ubud.
You don't just wait till your last day to go see what's around during your service time. You try to work and travel. Sometimes, a lot of times, if you're on a dive trip, it is kind of the last day. In fact, this is a great example of it. This is the tarsiers that we went to visit the last day of our Limbe trip. But the Red Sea easily combined with a trip to see the Sphinx and the pyramids, the temple at Luxor. If you've ever seen the obelisk in Paris, it was the companion to the one that was there. This is Bonaire's lighthouse. Just some kids playing on a beach in the Bahamas. The ruins of Mexico, easily accessible from Cozumel. And then I wanted to say something about the dive club. So really, the Chicago Scuba Meetup has been at the forefront of getting me to dive. And many of several of the trips that I've been on have been official CSM trips. Other things that I've done have been with other CSM divers, and I've met a lot of people. And I can honestly say that I would not have done the diving that I've done without being a member of this group. Here's I mentioned before Lake Michigan Charter, so that was Lake Michigan Charter. Chris Jacobson telling me that I'm the best diver there is, the number one diver. This is Dean. Abhishek, always identifiable with his orange gloves. Like I said, I've been on a few official trips as well. So this was my second trip to the Philippines. It was Lynn Funkhauser's birthday, so they made her a cake. Just great people watching there as well. And on that trip, Leandro Blanco joined us. Unfortunately, he's not diving anymore. He had a very bad stroke. But he's just a really wonderful guy, world famous underwater videographer, but he made you feel like he was interested in what you had to say. He was always asking you what you were interested in, what
what were the interesting things that you'd seen. It was just really a joy to be around, to be part of our group. And that was great. Now, I did want to say something about Mount Agung. So this is effing Mount Agung. I had planned a trip to Indonesia in 2017 with the CSM group. I was actually leading it. And just before we went to go to the east side of Bali, this volcano started acting up and threatened to close the airport. The area around it, including where we were going to be staying, was evacuated. So we had a group of 8 people that was going to go, and 6 of them canceled. But Beth and myself still decided that we wanted to go, and so we did. We made some last minute adjustments and found a couple of resorts up on the northwest side of the island, well away from the volcano, where we could go. So this is Beth, the only remaining CSM person on the trip.
Nusa Penida?
That's also Nusa Penida. That's cauliflower.
Eric adopted that manta.
Those are called razor shrimpfish. They kind of look like a straight razor, I guess.
The light.
Yeah, this was like 15 feet.
Yeah.
So the second trip that I organized was much more successful. This was to the Outer Banks of North Carolina to go see the sand tiger sharks. Thanks to Chris Newman for this photo. And that's Chris. This is us on one of the long boat rides. So this is the group picture from the group that we went to Limbe, another trip that I organized. If you can't tell who they are, here's the rest. Here's the group, actually. So you'll recognize a lot of familiar faces there, including these two guys editing their photos. And this is an inside joke that Abhishek and I have. So thank you.